Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Friday, March the 26th, and thank you for joining me for um, the devotion today. I appreciate you joining me. I want to ask you to think about joining me next week, starting Monday, March the 29th. It's Holy Week, and I'll be doing some Holy Week devotions as we lead up to Resurrection Sunday, starting on Monday of next week. So I hope you'll join me next week as we walk out Resurrection Week, and I think it'll be a blessing to you. So the Lord bless you today. Listen, something a little more serious today, maybe, than my normal devotion. But I've just been captivated over the last several weeks, months really, been captivated by what's going on in our culture. In my lifetime, I never remember it being as divisive as it is right now. Paul spoke to the church, and I realized he was speaking to the church. But he said, you need to be careful because if you continue to bite and gnaw at one another, you're going to devour one another. Again, I realize he was speaking to the church, but I think in larger scope, that's what we're seeing happening in our culture. We've become so divisive, so antagonistic. We have lost all politeness. We have lost all decency. We have lost all respect. We have crossed all kinds of barriers in behavior toward our fellow man. And we have gone past civility a long time ago. And now then there is a struggle in our culture, not just for civility, not just for inclusion. Because it's one thing to want to be included in civil areas of our culture and our society. And I think every human being is worthy of civility. I believe that down to the core of my being. But we've gone past any of us, no matter which side of the line you fall on, we've gone past just wanting to be included in society. We have reached a point in our culture now to where we are literally trying to stamp out others who don't agree with us, don't believe like we do, don't hold to the same ideologies, don't hold to the same philosophies, don't hold to the same belief systems. In America, a land that was supposed to be created where we could live with different ideologies, different belief systems, but we could live in harmony, be civil to one another. I think what many of us are finding out in 2021, that America is not the safe haven that we've always been told that it was supposed to be or believed that it was. I think that the church has fallen into this culture war. We're just as responsible as anybody else because we've tried to stamp out and we've tried to exclude and we've tried to dominate people who don't believe like we do. And so now then, I believe we're in a place in our culture where the shoe to some degree is on the other foot, and we as believers, we as Christians, we as people who hold to the values of the words of Jesus and the life that Jesus lived and the message that he taught, now we are beginning to feel the pressure because we are being pushed out of places that we have dominated for so many years. It doesn't feel good to us to be in the minority, to be in the position of not being in control. I believe that's why over the last several years you have seen such vocality and you have seen such venom from people who profess to be people of faith, because I believe people of faith feel like that they are losing their grip and they are losing their control. And what's going to happen if we who profess to be believers, who think we have been in control for so many years, suddenly lose control? What's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen, we believe, is that many of the things that we stand against, many of the things that we believe are outside the realms of God's word, many of the things that we believe have no place in the lives of people who profess to know Jesus, many of those things are going to become forced upon us. They're going to become the norms. They're going to become part of the world that we're living in, and you can just almost sense it. It's like the church feels like they're losing their grip and they're losing control. And so what we've seen is just a nastiness that has come about everything. Man, we have fought over who to bake cakes for, and we have fought over who can be married and who cannot be married, and we fought over this and we fought over that. And now then, this past week, whether or not you keep up with sports, we're even fighting now over who can play basketball in college tournaments, and who should be allowed to, based on what they believe or based on what they do not believe. The world has gone mad. The world has gone crazy. And here we are, we're living in this world. So what do? Do we change our message? Do we begin to rant and rave? Do we begin to rail? Do we get louder in our vitriol? Do we get louder in our hate for other people? Or do we stand true, and do we continue to preach the gospel of the grace of the good news, or the gospel of the good news of the grace of Jesus Christ? Let me tell you something. As a pastor, I'm committed to continue to preach the gospel of the good news of the grace of Jesus Christ. And here's why I believe that. Because Jesus was on his way to Calvary. He's giving last minute instructions to his disciples. Luke chapter number 21. He's given last minute instructions to his disciples, and he tells them, hey, Jerusalem's going to be destroyed. There's coming a day when this temple you're looking at, and this thing that you guys have put so much energy into, and the thing that you've tied all your hopes to, and the things that you're so in love with, all these things are going to come crumbling down. He said, it's going to happen. It's going to come crumbling down around you. And he said, and I'm going to tell you, when these things begin to happen, he said, you can expect betrayal. Nations are going to rise against nations. You can expect betrayal. There's going to be all kind of things happening in the atmosphere. There's going to be cosmic things happening. There's going to be things happening in the earth. A bunch of these things are going to be happening. And he said, this is what's going to happen before Israel, or before Jerusalem is destroyed. And he said, what you need to understand is your parents are going to betray you, brothers, your relatives, your friends. They're all going to betray you. Some of you may even have to give your life as martyrs. That's what Jesus said to his disciples right before he went to the cross. And then he said this, Luke chapter 21, verse number 17. He said this, and this is what stuck out to me in my reading this week. He said, you will be hated by all because of my life in you. Get that. You're not just being hated to be hated. You're not being hated because you're you. You're being hated because of my life in you, is what he said. They're going to hate you because of my life in you. Then he goes on and he says in verse number 18 something very powerful. He says, but don't worry. Oh, I love this. He said, my grace will never desert you, or my grace will never depart from your life. Stand firm with patient endurance, and you will find your soul's deliverance. Stand firm with patient endurance, and you will find your soul's deliverance. At the beginning of 2021, the Lord spoke to me, and I told our church, hey, there's the word for this year for us is endurance. There's going to be some things that we're going to have to endure. I believe that's a word for the church at large. There's going to be some things, church, that we can't pray away, that we can't rebuke away, that we can't lay hands on and it go away. There's going to be some things we have to endure. But after we have endured, after we have endured comes the reward. With patient endurance, you're going to find your soul's deliverance. Why? Because my grace will never depart from your life. They're going to hate you. You're going to have to endure some things. Not everybody's going to like what we preach, what we say, what we live. They're going to hate us because of his life in us. When I say they, I'm not picking on certain groups. I'm talking about people that don't want to hear this truth, and people that don't want to hear this message, because we're living in a culture right now that doesn't want to hear this message. We live in a culture that wants to live the way they want to live, do what they want to do. Nobody tell them what to do. Nobody give them any guidance, any instruction, any boundaries, any parameters. We're living in a time like the Old Testament described, where everybody was right in their own eyes. Everybody did what was right in their own eyes. That's where we're living right now in our culture. We're living in that place in our culture right now because everybody just wants to, hey, let me do me, let me be me, let me do what I want to do, and you keep your stuff to yourself. And if your stuff starts encroaching into my world, then I'm going to rise up and I'm going to try to cancel you and I'm going to try to destroy you. That's the culture we're living in. Guess what, church? Endure. Endure. Don't throw up your hands. Don't become angry. Don't become mad. Don't become upset. Don't get all offended. Endure. Endure, because his grace will never depart from your life. And after patient endurance, we're going to find our soul's deliverance. I believe the message will prevail. I'm not going to get up and rant and rail against the world. I'm going to get up and keep cheering on the church. Be who we've been called to be. Be light in darkness. Be hope in hopelessness. Someone, somewhere, somebody will see, and lives will be changed, because as long as grace is being extended in this world, souls have the opportunity to turn from darkness to light and have their life radically changed. I'm done being mad. I'm done being upset. I'm here for the long haul. I'm going to endure. Why? Because his grace will never depart from my life. I know I've taken way longer than I normally do, but I want to encourage you today as we enter into Holy Week, Resurrection Week. Man, this is what we live for. Resurrection of lives, coming back to life, rejecting one thing and turning to something else, receiving the life of Christ. It's what it's all about. And I'm committed to the cause. I'm committed to stand and preach the gospel of the good news of the grace of Jesus Christ. I hope you'll stand with me. I hope you'll lay down your offenses. I hope that you'll stop slinging rocks just because your neighbors are slinging rocks. Hey, come on. Let's be peacemakers. Let's do our part in Jesus' name. I love you today. The Lord bless you. Have a great day.